Hello and welcome to another quarantined episode of Sudden Impact Family Style, number 172. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill, and it's been an interesting week. I watched the Charles Schwab event from the Colonial Golf Course in Dallas, or Fort Worth, I should say, without any fans, and it was odd. The golf was good, but the golf was also really erratic. So I mean, for players laying off that long, and a lot of people made the point is, while you're used to quiet on the golf course, they're used to that much quiet. Because they talked about, there's always background noise of concession stands and people moving around. There's always noise. And, they actually played without any noise. So, it was different. It was an exciting finish. It was a sudden death finish. And I saw two putts that were in, rolled around the cup, and went out and affected the outcome.
Now, as far as the TV presentation, with the TV presentation of golf. Now, we know I'm not the biggest golf fan and I don't watch a lot of golf. But of all the sports, couldn't golf pump in noise more than other sports, or at least for the TV presentation? Because usually with golf, you're seeing the golfers. You're not usually seeing the gallery as often. You're hearing them, but you're not really seeing them all the time. So I feel like more so than most sports, they could probably get away with it.
Yeah. But it was good. I liked it, I liked the fact that I saw some really good competition. I liked the fact there was most of the competition was between 8 guys all the time until the last couple holes, and it was down to 3 or 4. And then it could have 3 or 4 in a sudden death, and ended up with 2. And so I thought it went well. I thought they did a good job. I know no players were tested and got sick. No caddies were sick. I saw that the swing coaches were upset they weren't tested. So maybe that's something they have to do next time.
Yeah.
But, they go to Harbortown, North Carolina, in Hilton Head this week.
It's a crazy, crazy time.
We'll see how that goes. But, I mean, I think they're doing good things. They're trying. So we'll see where this goes. So that was my highlight. My low light is the disaster that's Major League Baseball.
As they continue.
I'm not supporting either side. I know the players feel they already took a pay cut, but if 1 out of 5 Americans isn't working, and you want to play baseball and you want to get 60% of your salary, live with it.
We said it last week, and it's still true today. Like, it just... And again, I realize, like we said, that the leagues where there's a good relationship between the owners and players, they have a lot more productive dialogue, and it seems like they're really being thoughtful, where this seems less about COVID and less about the restraints of, playing in a, with no fans and social distancing, and more just about money, which just is a bad look. Especially when people are begging for something to watch, something to come back, something new. And it's like we said, like, this would have been the ideal time for baseball to try something. And, like, you think about, like, the social distancing age right now. Like, what if, 6 weeks ago, as they were making this decision to maybe come back, if, if you did, like, that old school 1960s home run derby, and you just had 2 players go out there, they stay on opposite sides, the pitcher's far enough away, and, you could have got a chance to get to know them, personally, let them joke around a little bit, get a couple of baseball fans doing the commentary from, home on Zoom, like Billy Crystal or somebody. Like, you could have found a way to, because, you could have done entitled social distancing like that and had a pretty fun, people love the home run derby, and have, I know some players don't like to go head to head because they're afraid about their egos, but that could have been a nice way to introduce more baseball players to fans, give fans something to watch, people something to bet on. Like, it seems like there were avenues and they just didn't even think about any of them,
Yeah, exactly.
Because I probably would have...
It's going to end up, I think a lot of people are saying, well, we should have known it was going to come to this anyhow. But now, are they really going to play 50 games? Or is now the union going to, is there going to be a lawsuit and nothing's going to happen? I'm not so sure now that any games are ever going to be played.
No.
And the longer that it goes, and it's going to, like we said last week on the show, when you start running into the NBA and the NHL and NFL, if they're all playing and people are excited about that and anticipating it. Is there room for baseball? And I love baseball. I watched the 1971 World Series this past week on the MLB Network, and I loved it and I enjoyed it. Tomorrow, I would be normally leaving to use my Pirate season tickets for the next 5 days.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, and I love it, but I'll tell you what, if it continues to be like this, as diehard as I am, and I said it last week, I'm going to be less interested just because it just, if you don't get it and you really don't care about anything other than the paycheck, and it's just too much, it's too much one way. This is too adversarial of a relationship between these two parties.
Yeah.
And I thought the owners made some really insensitive comments. The owner of the Cardinals saying it's tough to make money. Come on, that's one of the most successful franchises in all sports. If he's trying to cry poor to me, he's full of what, and I'm not believing any of it. So I can see how he would have angered the players. But at the same time, if you're gonna give me a check for $10 million to play 50 games, and I'm gonna cry because I didn't get $14 million, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna do that. I don't think it's right.
No. And anytime an owner cries foul, it's like there's a million people that would love to own a franchise in one of the major sports. The second you put it up, you've made way more money than you.
People would like to play.
Yeah. But again, like I said, we talked about it before, but you could have had Aaron Judge at Yankee Stadium, and you could have a Boston guy in Boston. They could have had virtual home run derby on Zoom, and it could have been a cool way to do it. And they didn't even bother to do something as simple as that, just to stay in the spotlight. There's so many things they could have done,
Yeah.
And no interest.
But, they could have been the only sport playing right now besides golf.
Yeah.
And they could have been the only team sport, and with all the affiliations, and they could dominate the airways. They would get ratings beyond they've ever had. They would be the story. Everybody would be excited. And now it's going to be, they're back if it happens. So they really shot themselves in the foot on this one.
Yeah, I think sadly the only thing that's helping them is the recent news of the NBA and the NFL. I mean, we had Ezekiel Elliott, the biggest name, but a couple of Houston Texans players and a couple of Dallas Cowboys players have tested positive. You have older coaches in both NBA and the NFL. COVID is spreading like wildfire again after Memorial Day weekend, and who knows what the protests are going to bring. So if every sport has continued to push back, then I think baseball can kind of slink back into the shadow again and be less of an,
You can't say to anybody in the United States that it's safe.
No.
You just can't. You can say if you do these things, you're probably going to be safe. But you can't guarantee anybody anything. And whenever you see the way some people are acting and some people are going, it's just going to spike. It's going to be contagious again. And so, all you can do is become a cave dweller and stay away as best you can.
Yeah.
Which is sad because I know there are people that would really like to go back to work and they can't afford to be a cave dweller.
No.
But this other behavior doesn't take that into account for them. It's very selfish behavior. I saw how sloppy it's gotten here. 3 weeks ago when I went in the grocery store, I had a mask on. Now you can win, maybe it's 1 in 3.
Yeah.
Unless you mandate, I had a doctor's appointment today, a face-to-face doctor's appointment, and one of the rules was you have to wear a mask. And so when you stepped in the building, if you didn't have a mask, they offered you one. If you didn't want to wear it, they say no.
Well, shifting to I think a pseudo-positive note.
Okay.
NASCAR.
Yes.
NASCAR making some changes and getting feisty on Twitter, which has been fantastic. So NASCAR has said, it should have been banned the day the war was over, but they didn't. But they banned Confederate flags, which has caused a little bit of an outrage between certain people. They even talked about getting rid of the national anthem and prayer at NASCAR events and just letting it just be the race, which makes a lot of sense. And I know it's upset some fans. But did you see that one driver who was like, I'm going to have to retire now? And then NASCAR on Twitter said, oh no, your tens of fans are going to be really upset. We had to Google you to see who you were. It was like,
yeah, I saw that. He's like a part-time driver.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Call it out for what it is. But you know what I read today? I read somebody's opinion. It said, if I was buying stock right now, I'd be buying stock in the company that made Confederate flags because all the people that were on the fence or that love the Confederate flag are going to be buying more Confederate flags and flying them on their lawn or whatever they're going to do.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that because it's just some of the stuff people just dig in deeper.
Well, there's a whole episode of the wonderful show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Frank Reynolds goes on, and Danny DeVito's character, he goes on all these talk shows in Philadelphia, and he's being crazy Danny DeVito on the show, but trying about anti-gun laws. And it turns out his entire reason for doing it is that he bought a bunch of stock in guns and he wanted more people to go out and buy guns. So he started an anti-gun campaign, which is pretty much how things work in this country, it seems like.
Yeah, you know what, Jason? It's kind of easy to see what the fall episodes of The Simpsons and South Park are going to have. They got a lot of ammunition this year.
I hope so. Although in video game news, like Grand Theft Auto 5 was just announced for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, which are the new ones coming out this fall. Grand Theft Auto 5 appeared on PlayStation 3, then on PlayStation 4, and it's still one of the top 10 selling games every month somehow. But the writers of that game, one of them retired, and the other one said, I don't know how to do satire in 2020. So they don't even know how to do another game. Because they're just like, what can I write that is somehow a crazy take on what's actually happening when what's actually happening is already happening? Like, how do you even write satire for that?
Yeah, good call.
And that was a little video game tangent for the video game people out there.
Well, I mean, it's going to be interesting to monitor now in the next couple of weeks if the NBA season and the NFL, these are all going to really go off on time the way we thought they were a couple of weeks ago. I mean, we were optimistic. Now it's kind of hard to say where we are with this, you know. So let's see where this goes.
I think it's just...
I mean, I think they've all got genuine concerns. And I mean, you know, being restricted and being there locked up for 3 months wasn't a popular idea to begin with.
No.
But now, you know, with the outbreaks again in the areas where you're supposed to play, it just is going to cause much, much more concern and a lot of angst. And, you know, some people are going to say, you know what, I'm good.
Yeah.
Just start the 2021 season.
And I think, you know, when it looks like things were on the... I mean, I don't think things ever really technically were getting better, but before the latest wave, it looked like it was going to be a lot easier for families to be a part of it and things along those lines. And obviously, as it becomes worse and worse, then it has to become more and more restrictive, which keeps players even away from, you know, families and loved ones for, like you said, 3 months, and press away from family for 3 months. And, you know, I've heard like some...
I'm a little sad for LeBron.
Yes.
Because I would have liked to have seen him try and win a title with that team.
Well, hopefully we somehow more... I know they said the timeline is a little longer than we'd like, but maybe there's an incredible breakthrough. Maybe one of the pharmaceutical companies decides to not be evil, and we get this vaccine going, and, you know, everything comes back for 2021. It's possible.
Yeah. I think, you know, right now I'm thinking 2021 for baseball, basketball, hockey. I think MLS has a shot, and football has a shot. Just I think I've always said that.
Yeah.
The issues, the labor issues, and everything else. They have a shot to play, and you know I think MLS pretty soon starts their tournament in Orlando.
They do.
And then they're talking about playing. I talked to one of my soccer clients today, and they said they were probably talking about having a home match in August. And they were just trying to figure out what percentage of fans they would let in the building, and they were talking about a third. See how a third went.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, obviously, you know, we try to, you know, there's plenty of places you can go and hear thoughts on current events and the protests and everything else. But I mean, I think the way it affects sports, obviously, is, you know, both the players wondering if the right platform is to come back, but also we saw what Memorial Day did to the spikes. And, you know, 2 weeks from now, we'll have to see what all these protesters in close quarters yelling and screaming. We'll have to see what that does to the spike of coronavirus too, and see how that affects us moving forward. But on a lighter note, I've been listening to the Bill Simmons podcast a little bit, another sports podcast that's pretty good, and they've been doing the redraftables, and they've been redrafting the NBA drafts from like 1995 on, and they do a different one every podcast. And it just got me thinking about different players over the years, some for the Steelers, some for not, that I just got super excited about, and I thought this guy's going to be the can't miss prospect, and just how wrong I really was. So if anyone has any of those, tweet my dad at them, because I think it's kind of funny to think about, different guys. We just thought, this guy, you just can't miss, One you famously give me crap for is Lima Swede from about 10 years ago. He was a 6'4", long, fast, 4.3 40 wide receiver from the University of Texas. He got hurt and he got a wrist injury early in the season because they said if he didn't, he was going to be a top 5, top 10 pick at the latest. And he fell all the way to the Steelers at the beginning of round 2. And I thought they had just found, the next Randy Moss. And he was awful, including dropping a touchdown, falling on the ground, and pretending to be hurt because he didn't want to get booed for dropping a touchdown. And it got to that point, and I don't think he ever played another meaningful NFL game after that. It was a sad, sad day.
Yeah.
And then similarly, Jarvis Jones, who I don't watch a ton of college football. I think I was still bartending at that time, and I just happened to catch a lot of Georgia football games. And Jarvis Jones was a defensive end / linebacker for Georgia. First team all SEC. And he just had that. In college, he had the knack. Like if it was 3rd and 5, they needed to hold the opponent's team. Jarvis Jones was causing a fumble. Jarvis Jones was getting a sack. He was breaking up a pass, making a big hit. Like he just did everything. And he had some degenerative knee issues. And it looked like he was going to be like a Brandon Roy from the NBA, where it's like he's probably not going to play 10, 15 years for you. But you might get, 3 to 5 great years. It's like, all right, we get 3 to 5 great years out of another outside linebacker in Pittsburgh. We're golden. And he just was not athletic enough to play.
No.
But he played in the SEC. It didn't make any sense. He dominated SEC opponents, and then he got to the pros, and he got dominated by everybody.
Yeah, he was not a dominant player at all.
No.
Lima Sweet's hard to figure out, though, because he had the toolbox.
Oh, yeah. And he wasn't like, we obviously had Martavius Bryant, who, they traded to the Raiders and who fell out of the league. And he obviously had a lot of, sort of like Josh Gordon. They both had enough off-field issues that you were like, okay, well, I understand that, whether it's drugs or family-related things or anger management things, whatever it is off the court, I understand why you're having trouble staying on the field. But Lima Swede he got the yips and just was never able to overcome the yips, which is such a fascinating, That's why, we've talked about him on this podcast. That's why I've loved to see Markelle Fultz, obviously not, be as good as Tatum or look like, the number 1 overall pick in the draft. But it's nice to see him in Orlando. Like, he seems to have, become competent again. Because it seemed like his was a mental thing, too, where he went from being this dominant player in college to all of a sudden he had a hitch in his shot, and he just seemed to have no confidence on the court. It was like, how can you spend, 10, 15 years of your life working in a sport every single day, most likely, being incredibly dominant at it, everyone telling you how great you are, and then all of a sudden you just mentally just lose it, and it's just gone.
No, it's hard. I mean, sometimes some you can't figure out. Some are just bad picks. And we've seen a number of quarterbacks that were washouts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Kelly Smith, remember Kelly Smith from Oregon? And we thought he was going to be something.
I remember Vince Young.
Vince Young, Mark Ripp, and all those guys.
Remember, I was telling you, I was like, the Steelers need to trade Roethlisberger. It was after one of the Roethlisberger indiscretions. I was like, we need Vince Young. Because I watched him all year at Texas, and the USC-Texas bowl game is still one of the greatest college football games I've ever seen. And I was convinced that Vince Young was going to win like 5 Super Bowls. I was like, he's just got it all. He's the leader. He's everybody needs. He and Byron Leftwich were my 2 favorite quarterbacks of the last probably 2 decades. And, yeah. That's why I'm not a scout.
No. But I think the one, and then there's some that just, substance abuse problems that had all the talent in the world and just could not stop. And, the one that sticks out to me is Justin Blackman.
Oh, yeah.
I remember a 3 or 4 pick in the NFL draft, number 3 or number 4, to Jacksonville. broken all Des Bryant's records at Oklahoma State. He was phenomenal, and he didn't do anything.
No.
And I mean, just the drugs are so prone. And I remember Terry Miller was a Heisman Trophy candidate at Oklahoma State. He was a running back before Thurman Thomas, and he was going to be the greatest thing ever. And same thing with him with drugs. So some of these guys just get sidetracked, and we say it's an addiction. It really is an addiction, and it controls their lives, and they can't do what they need to do.
No, it's very sad. Very, very sad.
If you're going to be, this high draft pick, there's going to be expectations, and sometimes people just can't deal with the expectations.
Yeah, that one.
I think Lime was sweet. I mean, it was nothing chemical. There was nothing physical. It just got in his head. I think that he couldn't play.
Was it Chuck Knobloch who just stopped being able to throw the ball from second base to first base?
Chuck Knobloch. There was a guy that Pirates had named Mackie Sasser. There was a catcher, and he got to the point where he couldn't throw the ball back.
Yeah.
He was a left-handed hitter, and they were all over him. So I don't know.
And again, no physical problems preventing these guys from making the throws. It's just one day, something you've done your entire life that, an average athlete can do. They can't do it anymore. And it's crazy. You think it's ghost or something supernatural.
Sometimes it just doesn't make sense.
No, it does not. I have a repeat entertainment one for you.
Okay.
During this time, I've been, Maria, I'm catching her up on some of the great shows, that I watched that she never got a chance to see. And we're rewatching Hannibal, which is based on the Thomas Harris books, which obviously became, the Oscar-winning Silence of the Lambs, Red Dragon, etc. And this was the NBC/NBC German show Hannibal, and it's really, really good. Mads Mikkelsen plays Hannibal, and I would say one thing this show does that's really incredible is you go into watching a show named Hannibal, you know who the bad guy is, right?
Uh-huh.
It's Hannibal.
No question.
Spoiler alert, it's Hannibal. But they do such a great job of creating tension. And it's obviously, it's incredibly well shot. Like, it's beautifully shot and well acted. I'm flaking on the guy's name, but it's Claire Danes' husband, Matthew Rhys, who's another phenomenal actor. He plays Graham, who's the detective from Red Dragon. And again, absolutely phenomenal performance. But they're able to make so much tension in a show where you already know who did it. And I think that's an incredible accomplishment.
That is, because it's usually what keeps you involved, which keeps you connected.
And part of it is, you want to know, like, when are they going to catch Hannibal? What is he going to screw up? What is he going to do that's put somebody over the top? And there's obviously, they mix in a few other, killers every couple of episodes or killers of the week that are either involved with Hannibal on some level or and it's really good. And then Lawrence Fishburne, who was obviously famous for Morpheus in Matrix, plays Jack Crawford, who is the head of the FBI criminal investigation people. And it's just a really, really good show. It's on Netflix. So 3 seasons. And you have Gillian Anderson from X-Files. Like, it's got a really, really good cast. And that's my TV entertainment moment for everybody.
That's good though.
Yeah. And like I said, it's free on Netflix. If you have Netflix, which it seems like almost everybody has access to in one form or another, whether it's theirs or somebody else's password, it's available on Netflix, I should say, not free. And I have continued to watch City Park, the Josh Gad, Kristen Bell musical cartoon from the Bob's Burgers people on Apple TV. And I'm still enjoying it.
That's got me interested. That says like there's some real potential there.
It is. I will say the first 2 episodes, and I was called out on this because I couldn't remember any of the songs, but I thought the first 2 episodes had some really, really good musical numbers that I thought were just, top-notch Broadway level song production. Now, the last 2 episodes, the songs haven't quite been to that level yet. You still have incredibly, talented people behind the songs and the music, but those first 2 episodes just really crushed it. And if you have Apple TV, it's definitely worth checking out. Just be aware that it is an old school traditional show where you get an episode every week. So there's no binging. At least unless you start watching in a couple of weeks, then you can binge it. But for now, no binging. You have to actually watch it week by week, which is a good way to watch TV sometimes, I will say.
Well, I thought it was kind of a good food moment for us. I went to one of my favorite restaurants around Trattoria in Dunedin, and I ordered my steak and seafood fra diavolo. So it's a filet,
Mm-hmm.
a lobster tail, crab meat, scallops, and shrimp, and a spicy tomato sauce, and with the angel hair pasta. Love that dish, right?
That's a great dish.
For some reason, they made it with a marsala sauce,
Oh.
which is sickeningly sweet. I hate it. And so it came to the table, and I looked at it, and I took a bite, and it just put me off. And I called the manager, and he went back, and I said, just kind of clean this up and put some Fabiella sauce on it. But that kind of sauce just penetrates everything.
Yeah.
And it kind of ruined my dinner. So, there's only four couples in the restaurant because we're not at 50% yet.
Right.
So it wasn't like they were real busy and made a mistake. It was just careless. And it really put me off. As much as I like this restaurant, I have a really hard time going back.
I will say, as someone that spent a lot of time both bartending and working in restaurants, through college and grad school, it's the times that it's slow that it's the most difficult to do your job. And I know that's a silly thing to say, and it seems like it should be easier, but somehow you're just more prone to distract. Like if you're in the rhythm of working, you have a full section and tables are popping, you're just getting in this rhythm and you just go. But for some reason, when it's the one table on like a slow lunch day, that's the table that you figure in your mind, you're like, they should get perfect service. They should get exemplary service, like over the top, great service. And for some reason, that's a table you just botch. And I think it's a pretty common phenomenon in restaurant waiting, bartending. Like I said, you're in the middle of a restaurant, you got a 5-table section, you got a 12 top. You remember everything down to who didn't want onions on their burger. You're not even writing anything down. Then you get the one table, and you get to the POS. It's a table of two. You don't remember the other. You don't have no idea what the other person ordered. It's weird. It's a weird phenomenon in the restaurant/business. I'm not saying that that's excusable. I'm just saying it is very common when it's slow. And again, you would think, these are my only opportunities to get tips. I really got to crush it. And yet somehow you don't. My food moment is a repeat of the last food moment. But we got the Pat's cheesesteaks, as we've spoken about, from Goldbelly on here, from Philadelphia. And the instructions are to bake them for about 15 minutes at 300 degrees in the oven. Just a full sandwich, and then you add the cheese later. But what I discovered with the second time, because they were buy one, get one free, so we pulled them out of the freezer, scrape the meat off into a frying pan, bake the bread, and then you bake the bread a little bit less than you normally would because it's going to heat up a little bit quicker. And then add a little bit of olive oil or butter to the meat and hop it up in a frying pan, and then you add the cheese. It takes it back to, I think it gets closer to the Pat's experience that way as opposed to just the regular heating up. Just in case anybody had heard our show before and was going to order the cheesesteaks from Goldbelly, then that's my food moment. Help.
Well, my Goldbelly moment is I did get my chocolate cheesecake from the Nuns of Newsgate.
Oh, that stuff is so good.
It is so good. It's killer. It is the best cheesecake I've ever had anywhere on the face of the planet. It includes Carnegie Deli, it includes cheesecake. Anywhere you want to mention, this is the best cheesecake I've ever had.
No question about it.
One Goldbelly. And if you like cheesecake, they get about 18 different varieties, but the chocolate is lethal. It'll kill you.
Yeah, their flavors are amazing, but their texture is unparalleled. Like it's the right, firm, creamy mixture that just it's so good. Like it's
amazing. It is absolutely amazing.
And the chocolate one is incredible.
Yep.
Just absolutely incredible. I know we've mentioned on the show before, I think I've mentioned and you've mentioned Cake Cafe down here in New Orleans. It's one of my favorite breakfast spots in the world. For anyone still listening, it's on Chartres Street, 2440 Chartres Street. They are going to close permanently on June 28th. So and they're doing takeout, and they have limited seating like everywhere else. It's a pretty small place, but they have a couple outdoor tables. But it's still one of the best places. I mean, I would say I saw the interview with the owner, and he and his wife have been. They had a bakery in the French Quarter because their baked goods are amazing, and then they opened the restaurant in 2007. So they've been there for 13 years. And apparently, this wasn't just a coronavirus taking down a small. It accelerated their timeline, but they were gonna, they were probably. He said he was looking for a change, probably within. He's getting older in the next, year or two, and this just was like the spark that did it. But if you have time between now and June 28th, they're definitely worth going to. It's going to be a great meal. Even if you just get some baked goods to take out, you're going to love what you get. So, a sad goodbye to cake. Yeah.
It is so worth it. You got to go.
It was on my, whenever people ask me where to go in New Orleans, it was in the top, and if I said breakfast, I was like, you're going there and Bearcat. Those are two places you got to go to. So it's very sad that we are losing them this month. I'm very bummed out.
No doubt.
And a shame, and obviously I'm disappointed for any restaurant that, any new restaurant or smaller restaurant that's been having a hard time. Like, don't forget, like, even if you don't go out, like, I know DoorDash, I know Uber Eats, they'll leave it at the door, they ring your doorbell, you just bring out your wipe, you wipe down the bag if you need to, and then take your food, put it on a plate, eat it. But, do your best to support the local places if you can, once a week, if you can afford it. I know some people are hurting and it's not a little tougher, but if you can, make sure you're supporting the local places.
And I'm really sad about cake because I told so many people that when they're in New Orleans they had to go to cake, and it was just so well run, so well done. That was really a tragedy.
No, I know it is up for sale, he said, but I think when you have a guy that's that involved, that is the head chef, the head baker, you hope somebody good could take it over, but it's hard to imagine you would keep all the things that he brought to the restaurant, as he is just a master in the kitchen. So, okay, if it turns out it's still open and I go there and it's still good, I'll definitely let you all know. But
okay.
I said you have a week and almost 2 weeks to go if you still want to try to get out there.
I wish they were on Goldbelly. I would buy something to order just to support it.
I know. I'm gonna try to get out there this week and just at least grab some cinnamon rolls or some baked goods, and then maybe a biscuit sandwich to go. So.
Yeah, it's so sad. I mean, it's what we've been talking about, places closing and the challenges and everything. But when you're intimately connected with one and you really have enjoyed it, you really value what they did, it makes it hard to understand.
It really, really does.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully we'll have some better things to talk about next week. We always say that we've been saying that now for about 3 months, but we can hope.
Exactly. If you guys think of anything you want us to talk about, please do.
Just reach out, send me an email, hit me on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you want to do.
Yes, indeed. So until next week, stay safe. Wear your masks. It's not that big a deal. You get to be like a superhero or a robber or a villain. I always pretend like I'm going to go rob a place.
There's no kind of cool mask you can have right now, so there's no excuse. Just be cool. I agree with Jason. Whatever.
You can get some awesome ones that look really cool. So,
Show your fandom.
Yeah, show your fandom, show your geekdom, show whatever you want to show, because you got a place to get any kind of mask you want. And then, like I said, have fun with it. So, all right, until next week.